The Monaco Grand Prix was meant to break the usual pattern we see every year in Formula One's most traditional race. Fans were hoping for something fresh, something to shake up the predictable pace that often marks this event. But unfortunately, the new rule forcing teams to make 2 pit stops didn't quite deliver the excitement everyone was expecting. Instead of forcing riskier strategies and more overtaking, it ended up feeling like a slow and cautious game of tactics where the cars barely changed position. Once again, the streets of Monte Carlo felt more like a fancy backdrop for yachts and celebrities than a place where real racing battles happen. Even with the 2-stop requirement, the front-runners finished in the same order their pace suggested. The tight, narrow layout of the circuit simply doesn't allow many passing opportunities. So despite the new rule, strategy options were limited and didn't really affect the outcome. This track is famous worldwide, but lately it feels like it's lost the excitement that made it special. When you watch top teams like McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull running in a line for more than 70 laps without a single genuine pass on merit, it raises an uncomfortable question. Is Monaco still worth the hype? Lando Norris took the win here, an important moment for him that also tightened the championship battle against his teammate Oscar Piastri, who now leads by just 3 points. Between the two McLarens was Charles Leclerc, who gave his best in front of his home crowd, but didn't manage to get a rewarding result. Max Verstappen came in 4th, despite Red Bull trying a bold move by delaying his final pit stop until nearly the end of the race to stir up some chaos. But that chaos never arrived. The main problem wasn't a lack of effort from the drivers, it was simply the track itself. Monaco is too tight, and the modern Formula One cars are too big to allow for meaningful passing. Norris, Leclerc, Piastri, and Verstappen all found themselves stuck, unable to make a move because the circuit's narrow streets leave very little room for mistakes or risky attempts. It's like the cars are trapped inside the limitations of the track, and any attempt to overtake is met with serious consequences. If no big changes happen soon, Monaco risks becoming nothing more than a slow parade, where the championship points matter but the racing excitement doesn't. Martin Brundle, the former driver turned commentator, summed it up perfectly. He said he doesn't like these rules because they turn racing into a slow, cautious game, instead of the high-speed battle fans expect. According to him, the sport is about pushing limits and excellence, but watching so many cars just follow each other slowly is frustrating. What's even more disappointing is that the excitement we did see came from behind the front runners in the midfield, where teams were using clever tactics to gain an advantage. But these moves felt less like pure racing and more like teams bending the rules to get ahead. Teams like Red Bull and Williams took advantage of the regulations, using strategies that slowed down some cars deliberately to help their teammates. Liam Lawson, for example, held back the field with expert timing, so his teammate Isaac Hadjar could complete both pit stops early and secure an impressive 6th place. Mercedes found themselves caught in the middle of this strategic traffic jam. George Russell and rookie Kimi Antonelli got tangled up in a bizarre situation on the track that ended with Russell choosing a penalty instead of giving up his position. It was a clear example of how chaotic things became when teams tried to outsmart each other instead of focusing purely on racing. Meanwhile, Red Bull's gamble with Verstappen, stretching his final stint to the very edge, was a desperate attempt to spark some drama, hoping for a late safety car or a red flag to shake up the order. But that hope didn't materialize. Verstappen, who usually shines when given clear track ahead, spent most of the race stuck behind Piastri, unable to find a way past. When he finally made his pit stop, the leading 4 returned to their original positions. Leclerc tried to push the pace, but the physical limits of Monaco made it impossible to apply any real pressure. Even Lewis Hamilton, running in 5th, seemed to be racing against the clock on his own, far from the main pack. Farther down the field, there was some chaos. Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon ended up coordinating their pit stops in a way that created artificial gaps and slowed sectors, turning their battle into something more choreographed than competitive. Antonelli used the runoff at the chicane as an escape route during an incident, and when told to give back a position, Russell refused, accepting a drive-through penalty instead. This kind of behavior highlighted how teams found loopholes in the rules, showing just how fragile the spirit of racing had become when everyone is focused on playing the system. Fernando Alonso once again faced bad luck, forced to retire from what could have been a strong race due to engine trouble. His Aston Martin started to emit smoke before coming to a complete stop, frustrating not just Alonso, but everyone watching. It's tough to see a driver with so much skill held back by issues beyond their control. The race itself didn't start with much excitement either. Gabriel Bortoleto clipped the barrier at Portier, bringing out a virtual safety car that slowed down the action early on. Several drivers, including Tsunoda, Gasly, and Behrman, tried to take advantage of the virtual safety car by making early pit stops, hoping to gain an edge. However, none of these gambles paid off. Gasly's aggressive attempt to pass Tsunoda led to contact and damaged his Alpine car. Tsunoda managed to continue, but the damage affected his performance. Once again, early strategy moves faded away, as the virtual safety car period ended too soon for anyone to benefit. Despite all the chaos and drama off the track, the race itself saw little change in the top positions. The podium was decided not by bold overtakes, but by pit stop timing, tire management, and traffic tactics. Verstappen's late second stop summed up the situation perfectly. Red Bull knew there was no chance to gain a position, but they made the pit stop anyway, just in case something unexpected happened. By the time the race was coming to a close, there was very little fighting left on the track. What stood out most was Lando Norris's calm and controlled drive at the front. He never appeared rattled, handled pressure from Leclerc well when it came, and managed the pace like a true pro. Still, even his win couldn't hide the bigger problem. Facing Monaco right now, Formula One can't keep promoting this event as the ultimate test when the actual racing is so limited. The sport has to make a decision soon. Either commit to major changes like smaller cars or adjusting the track layout, or admit that tradition alone isn't enough to keep Monaco relevant in today's racing world. If the reaction to the two-stop rule showed anything, it's that small fixes won't cut it anymore. Teams quickly found ways to work around the rule, using coordinated tactics to create large gaps that protected their drivers rather than encouraging real battles on track. Some have even suggested that the FIA should consider setting a minimum lap time to stop teams from exploiting these tactics. When it comes to the track itself, making changes seems almost impossible. Removing the Nouvelle chicane and lengthening the straight could be one option, or maybe adding another chicane farther down the course to open a chance for passing. Still, safety concerns, especially around the tunnel, keep many ideas off the table. Even an alternate layout before Portier has been suggested, which might create new opportunities to overtake, but tradition and safety concerns have kept those plans from moving forward. The problem isn't new, but it has never been this serious. Monaco still shines as a glamorous event, but it's losing its status as a place for real racing battles. The rules, the circuit, and the cars just aren't working together anymore. Without changes, no amount of history or nostalgia will hide the fact that this isn't what Formula One racing should look like. What happens next is uncertain, but if this weekend showed anything, it's clear that big changes need to come soon, and they need to be real. Right now, the only thing more outdated than the circuit itself is the hope that things will improve on their own. So, what's your take on this? Feel free to share your thoughts down below.